Greetings, fellow travelers. Welcome on in to the 127th level of the RPG Cave. I'm one of your hosts, the level 199 Dark Lord, Ryan Turford, and I am joined, as always, by the level 199 Battle Alchemist, Dr. Garret Bland. How's it going, Garret?
Doing good, man. I always, per usual, I have three things to tell you, Ryan.
Of course.
Okay, so let's go through these three things. Okay, I'm doing very well with Persona 3 Reload. We are in. I would say we're getting to the end game. I wouldn't say we're at end game right now. I'm in November, so
Okay.
romance someone, which I will reveal next time, and then so on and so forth. Persona 3 Reload, very good. It's good so far. That's my first thing. All right, Ryan, I don't know if we're going to go through these next two things really quickly, but here we go. Next thing, I'm this game is so good and scary addictive. There's this game called BobLoblaw. Have you? I've been playing it on Steam Deck, and it's scary good. Do you know the premise of this game?
I do know it's a poker game. It's got poker stuff in it. And that's about it. That's all I kind of know.
That's about it. I want to explain in detail what this card game is. So just buckle up here, buckaroo. We're going to be here for a while. Okay, so BobLoblaw is think of it as Slay the Spire, but with rogue, like deck building roguelike, elements with poker. And so your base deck is a plain deck of cards. And what you're doing, you're playing poker hands. And as you play poker hands, you gain chips for each hand. And then so that's how you kind of go above a certain threshold. If you play a certain number of hands, you go past those chips, and then you go on to the next level. And it progressively gets harder, right? You earn cash after each round. And the cash you buy, you buy all sorts of different power-ups to your cards. You can convert some of your cards to different suits, select up the 3 cards to be spades and stuff like that. And then you can enchant your cards to make them higher chips or whatever. And then there's these things called, Joker cards where you do a specific thing and it adds a multiplier to your chips, to your play set. And so you really get into a habit of, I'm going to be into pairs or 2 pairs and do that just unlimited. I had a point where I had 120 multiplier in a run, and it was just so rigged. It was so awesome. Anyways, you kind of just go through it, and it's like crack, Ryan. It's it's a drug, man. It's so good. It's scary addictive.
I mean, clearly this is just distracting you from other games at this point, Garret. It's like what happens with me with either Final Fantasy 14. I'll use that as the perfect example because I talked about it on PlayStation Drive this week, where I was just I have to cut myself off from Final Fantasy 14, or else I'm just not going to play other games. So I'm taking a break from it. Just BobLoblaw, you might need to take a break at some point, Garret.
Well, the thing is, it's actually good when you're watching TV or doing something, because it's one of those games where you don't need to really pay attention too much. You're just going through a run. You're all right, let me go through certain hands. Has a nice aesthetic. It was pretty cheap. I got it for $12 or something like that.
Yeah,
it was pretty good.
Nice. Well, I know Fee on Xbox Drive is also playing it as well, a ton.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, I need to talk to her about this because it's really good. It's as good as Slay the Spire. It's
starting to catch on. Also, I love Nagachaka's point here. BobLoblaw is good, but it ain't no Queen's Blood. Card game from Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, Garret.
I hear.
People say it's good.
Is it like Gwent? Is it similar to
I don't think it's like Gwent at all. I think it's like
oh, okay.
It's almost like a fusion of chess and cards in a card game.
Oh, I'm down with that. Okay, cool. Maybe I should play OG Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy remake / Final Fantasy. What's the PSP remake?
All you got to do is you got to beat Lunar first, Garret. If you beat Lunar, you can get to those games.
Then you're telling me to beat Persona 3 Reload, then go to Lunar, and then go to it's a whole thing.
Well, look,
it's just packed, man.
If there's any way to break your BobLoblaw addiction, it's to have me force you to play other games.
That's true. Anyways, after that third thing, this might be long, but we don't have to take it so long. I just want to mention it. Big news happened today related to I'm sure the Nintendo Drive will get into it in detail, so I don't want to kind of storm over it. But it's really important to me. It's really the Yuzu and Citra lawsuit against Nintendo against the developers of Yuzu, which is a Switch emulator, like one of the best and most well-developed Switch emulators you can get on PC, on Steam Deck, and so on and so forth. And they just settled a lawsuit with Nintendo, shutting down the emulators. Is $2.4 million they owe them. Lawyered up. I know there's a lot of thoughts, of course, emulation, preservation, blah, blah, blah. When I read into this situation, I don't know if you know this, Ryan, but the way they got them is really because of the monetary gains that they're getting, because they have a Patreon. They have a Patreon, and apparently with the Patreon, what they used it for is to paywall a Tears of the Kingdom fix with the emulator, the Switch emulator. So you had to pay a certain amount in order to get your Tears of the Kingdom to work,
or just get like an upgrade for the program, because they had like certain. I know that Yuzu in particular is like that you can download it for free, but then if you want like updates for it, you have to pay. I think that's behind the paywall.
Right, exactly. They had added monetary value for that specific thing, and so I honestly, I think I'm not really gonna be defending them on this one, because they set themselves up because it's setting up monetary value, trying to getting a business out of it. It's just no, dude. That's like not good.
Well, I mean, you can definitely tell that the writing was on the wall with the fact that it was just released today, that they settled out of court, because they would if they knew they had a case to stand on, they wouldn't have settled out of court. They would have gone to court and tried to fight it. But like between that and the fact that Nintendo had infiltrated their Discord and had all kinds of like messages in the screenshots and all kinds of crazy evidence against Yuzu in that case, it's just like, it's just they
were kind of done. And I don't blame Nintendo for this one. Yuzu is pretty, I was honestly very surprised how well developed that emulator is and the emulation scene is with Switch. It's pretty rough. Now the collateral was Citra, which is kind of bad because it's a 3DS emulator and we're not getting as much 3DS games. It's not really as used as much, so kind of sucks on that part. For me personally, I don't use it that much on my Steam Deck. I don't really play those games on my Steam Deck. I have a 3DS, I have a Switch, and I just play out over there. So, but anyways, that's what happened today.
There you go.
Pretty big. It was just a throwdown by Nintendo.
Those are the three things. Three things that happened today. Also, the fact that the weather has been crazy, Garrett, because it's like, we broke a record today with like a high.
Was it?
It was like a high of like 15 degrees Celsius in Toronto today. Which is
that's
like
pretty warm.
The first time it's ever been this hot on this date. It's like this early of the year ever. So it's weird.
Did you go out in a short sleeve shirt and shorts and just walked around?
No, because it was like -4 when I came home from work tonight. So I had to actually bring my winter jacket with me because it was like cold.
Okay.
So,
yeah. It's actually pretty cold over here. It's pretty windy. Still very stormy around here. Not lots of rain in the Bay Area these days.
Absolutely. Well, anyways, we should probably, now that we're 10 minutes into the show, Garrett, we should, Sean's already just like, what is even in this show right now? Yeah, we should probably get into this. So folks at home, if you want to support the show, there's a number of amazing ways you can do that. Number one, if you're watching the live stream right meow, we're at youtube.com/carpoolgaming, or if you're watching the video on demand later, don't forget to tap that like button, slightly tap that subscribe button. Let us know in the comments below what some of your favorite Fire Emblem games are. We would love to hear from you. Also, if you're listening on audio feeds, don't forget to subscribe to us there, and also rate us if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, if you want one big podcast feed with the entire Carpool Gaming cinematic universe on it, head on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/carpoolgaming, just like HVAC Sparky did, who upgraded to the exclusive tier after checking out the 7-day free trial last week, because we talked about HVAC Sparky last week, the exclusive trial. Now they're in with them exclusives. Shout out to HVAC Sparky. We also got Riley King, who is currently checking out the 7-day free trial. Of course, Riley actually joined us in the chat on the PlayStation Drive on Saturday. So shout out to Riley.
So cool.
Yeah. We got Josh Coltier, of course, who joined the exclusive tier. And last but not least, Ian Kegg, who also joined that exclusive tier. So shout out to all of our patrons and especially our brand new patrons, and enjoy your new perks. Of course, we got lots of awesome content over there, like the Pants Patreon podcast for Patreon podcast, as well as a whole lot more. And last but not least, we got our website carpogaming.com, where we got our cool merch like this old RPG Cave t-shirt. We've also got new shirts. I love it. Nagachaka actually posted his brand new RPG Cave t-shirt,
looking like a model
today. Yeah,
looking so good.
I mean, I will like give him the.
I like the color.
Yeah,
the maroon background is pretty good.
I was gonna say I like the purple a lot, but the maroon's pretty good. Sean brings up a good point. Ryan is next on pants. I am next on pants.
On pants. Okay.
If you have questions for me, make sure to head on over to Patreon and submit them, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. We'll find out.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, exactly. Well, without further ado, Garrett, it is time to read from the sacred texts, because we got a topic this week. Because this could have been like a Nintendo Drive topic, but we stole it from them, Garrett. We got to the first.
We stole it.
Technically, that's not to say that Nintendo Drive can't ape us and do this themselves, but we on the show have professed multiple times over the years of doing this show. God, I can't believe it. I'm even able to say years. We've been doing this show for years now, Garrett.
Yeah, we have.
We've professed our love for the Fire Emblem series, and we are going to go through and tier rank all of the Fire Emblem games, including the spinoffs, because of course we are. That's just who we are.
Including the spinoffs.
Including the spinoffs. Look,
how that goes.
We need to find out where Tokyo Mirage Sessions on the Wii U ranks on the tier ranking of Fire Emblem games, Garrett. Okay,
sure.
I need to know.
I need to finish that game. You know, it's also on Switch, right? You know that, right?
I do know that.
Okay.
But I got the art, Garrett, for the Wii U version for this.
Oh,
that's just who I am. So
got it.
And that's where I initially played it, was on the Wii U. So there's that. So what we're gonna do, of course, we're gonna go through all 22 Fire Emblem games that have been released, and we'll talk about, our thoughts on each one. There's obviously games that we haven't played, kind of like our Persona list that we did the last time we did a tier list. So we do have a section on the tier list for didn't play, and that'll come up with some of like the Japanese exclusive ones that we haven't
definitely those.
Yeah.
Did not
but
play
for
those.
The most part, I think most of these games at least one of us has played. So we'll be able to weigh in a little bit, kind of talk about our thoughts, and go through there. Of course, we've got these ranked from S to C. Obviously, I didn't feel like there was a need for a D or an E ranking, Garrett, or an F ranking, because I don't think any of these games are necessarily bad.
No,
per se.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, like even the ones that are just tougher to play now.
Yeah.
They're none of them are really bad. Like we don't have any stinkers on this list, I don't think so. No need to throw that on there. So we'll go through this. Obviously, last thing I want to preface before we get into it, and this came from some of the comments from the last time we did a tier list. This list is 100% our opinion. This is not, critical best or anything like that. No, this is based on our own experiences. So just take our list with a grain of salt and understand that this is just our opinion, man.
Okay? No, it's objective. It's objective based off of our opinion. So
yeah,
there you go, everyone.
Exactly. So let's get into this, Garrett, because we got to talk about. We're start with the very first Fire Emblem.
My goodness,
the NES one, the one that eventually we got in North America for like the first time in 2020 on the Switch.
We did.
The game that was available for 3 months to purchase. And then they took it
That's
down.
The weirdest thing, man. Why did they do that? 3 months?
3 months. I don't understand why.
I do have the special edition of this one. It's one of the better complete editions of a Fire Emblem game. Very sleek, has a cool art book, has a cool cartridge or whatever. And box, and the design in general, very, very nice. So I'll give it at least a C rank for me. I did play the first level and it sucked. I don't want to play anymore.
I was just going to say, I feel like this one goes in the C because I feel like this isn't a bad game. It's just very unplayable in the year.
It's very hard, man.
Yeah. And also too, I just don't think it stands up to some of the other strategy role-playing games we got around that time. Like, it doesn't stand a candle versus something like Shining Force, I think.
That's I agree with you. It's a pretty hard. The first Fire Emblem game is just pretty difficult to even just move around, look into. There's not much feedback. Yeah, it's I think you really have to have a guide. And you know, is there even like emulation off like features with the game? I don't even remember.
Not on the Switch version, no.
Uh-uh.
You don't really have anything
It's rough.
available. It's basically just the NES game as if it would have been presented on NSO, but without the rewind feature.
I still just can't believe they had it available for 3 months for like it was like for a weird price too. It must have been like 8 or 11 USD, something like that.
Yeah.
Something very weird.
I mean, it ended up being a nice Canadian price. It ended up being 10 Canadian dollars.
Okay.
Just on the dot. So
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, which is so weird. So yeah, I think we both agree. This one's definitely in the C category. Not because again, it's not that we're saying it's bad.
Some of it. I did play like 3 levels and I was just kind of done.
I actually, when the Switch version came out,
yeah,
I hardly played it, but I played because I played this before with a fan translation a long time ago. Like I didn't finish the game, but I got pretty far in this game. But I wasn't really enjoying it either time. I thought it was fine, but it's definitely a serviceable game. And you can definitely tell, like, as we talked about on our Fire Emblem episode, when we talked about the history of the series, like it was paving new ground. It was the first of this kind of game out there. Yeah. So of course it's not going to be perfect. So it makes sense. And then I'm going to say similar things about Fire Emblem Gaiden, which is the other NES game. Of course, that's the game that was remade into Shadows of Valentia, like Fire Emblem Echoes. Because I also played this one as well with a fan translation. And this one I actually finished, like the NES.
Oh, okay. Nice.
So, cool. In fact, I actually think it's a better game than the original Fire Emblem, but it's still like kind of
still rough.
Like, everything we said about the first game applies to this one, where it's actually it's very obtuse and you can't really get through it at all without a guide, and it's tough to play. So yeah, that's definitely going to fit in there. So anyways, Garrett, I think we're going to zoom through these next 4 pretty quickly.
No joke.
Because these next 3 of these next 4 games are the 3 Super Nintendo Fire Emblem games, but none of them have an English translation patch other than, of course, fan translations, but neither of us have played any of those. So no. I think we can just safely put the 3 of these.
Toss them in the trash bin for sure.
And that's the thing. I've wanted to play these for a while, but we've also been hearing about a genealogy of the Holy War remake for forever now.
Forever. Yeah. No, it's done. It's developed. It's ready. It's ready to be out. It's going to be out this year, hopefully, because Switch 2 is not going to be here anytime soon. So
well, they got to put something out, and
they got to put something out.
And I mean, I'm starting to think that Metroid Prime 4 doesn't even come out this year either. So I mean, it's
that's a myth. Like Half-Life 3.
Yeah. So I think those safely go in there because I've been waiting for like the remake of Genealogy of Holy War to play these games rather than go back to the Super Nintendo version. So like I kind of want to go back to them after maybe playing that remake, Garrett, to like compare and contrast to see what the differences are. This next one, of course, Fire Emblem the Binding Blade. The Binding Blade, yeah. Yeah, this is a GBA Fire Emblem game that we also never got in North America either. So I don't think either of us have played this one either. So it is also going in the didn't play category. But I think we've got the rest of these covered for the most part, because this next one, Fire Emblem, aka Fire Emblem the Blazing Blade, which was on the Game Boy Advance. This was our first taste in North America of Fire Emblem after Marth and Roy debuted in Smash Brothers. So Garrett, first of all, I don't think we've talked about these. Have you played either of the Game Boy Fire Emblem games before?
So I did not know what Fire Emblem really was until Awakening. So to be honest with you, I actually Marth and Roy was like my first introduction to Fire Emblem in Super Smash Brothers Melee. I was like, who are these dorks? Just like randomly in my fighting game that I love and enjoy. And it's interesting to hear Marth and Roy and then like figure out, they're from these set of games I've never even mentioned or played before. So yeah, I haven't touched the GBA games yet, but I know that this one is on Nintendo Switch Online.
It sure is. It's actually a good way to play this one, I think, because like,
yeah, I bet,
especially with the rewind and the being able to save anywhere. Like, I think it's a good option to play
for sure
this games. Which is why, like, I actually think this game of the GBA games of the two is definitely the better one, and I think it's actually pretty fun to go back to this one. So I actually think this one's pretty solid. Like, I think this one's probably at the low end of A. Like,
oh wow,
because I do think it's actually I think it's a very solid. And you'll understand why I'm also ranking it here in a second when we talk about the Sacred Stones. But this game actually holds up really well today. It still looks really good if you play it on the Switch or if you play it on the GBA. It has great music. The battles are fun. Like, it's not obtuse like some of the older Fire Emblem games. And I think this game is pretty darn good. So I definitely throw this one into A, because I think Sacred Stones is definitely B, where it's like a step below Fire Emblem, and I think it's also a really good game. But it just I think the battles are a little bit better in Sacred Stones, but man, the story is kind of boring in this one. It's kind of a slog to get through a lot of the talking and stuff in Sacred Stones. So I definitely think that this one is definitely worse than just than its predecessor. So that's why
this one's not on NSO so far. I'm sure it'll come out later this year or something like that.
But fun fact, if you're a 3DS ambassador, you already have this game, because this was one of the ambassador games.
Yes, I remember. I do have this on my 3DS. Man, it's so weird to go back to my 3DS sometimes, and I actually had I had a 3DS day one in 2011. And I remember getting the Golden Ambassador stuff. And I'm like, this is so cool. I get all these older games. Yeah, I need to get to this on my 3DS.
Yeah,
sure.
It was also so weird, Garrett, that they'd given us those 10 GBA games as part of the ambassador program, and then never released any on the store ever.
No, they didn't. It was just us. And was it GBA games? Was it more than that?
There were also 10 NES games, but the 10 NES games did come to the store eventually.
Interesting. That is so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. But cool. I remember that being a thing. I was like, oh, when I saw the NES games pop up on the store, I was like, oh, this means hopefully we'll get GBA added to the 3DS store eventually. And it never did for whatever reason. We got Game Boy games, but no GBA, which is bizarre to me, because they put that on Wii U instead for some reason.
They put everything on Wii U and they decided to abandon.
They even put DS games on Wii U, but they didn't put them on 3DS. Why?
So weird. It's Nintendo. What are you doing?
It hurts my brain.
It's the only. So well, DS is, I guess, it's only accessible to Wii U. Probably the least connected or popular Nintendo system currently. You can't really get a Wii U unless you get it secondhand.
Yeah.
And even at that, the shops are about to close up. It's really hard to get.
They already are closed up.
Oh, they are closed? Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah. You can't buy it. You can't buy anything on there now.
You got to jailbreak those then. You can't even get them. Wow.
No, what's actually ending soon, Garrett, is the ability to re-download anything.
Oh my goodness.
Or to play multiplayer at all.
Well, that's fine. I think multiplayer is kind of dead.
Yeah.
In a sense.
No, I mean all the network features is just across the board.
They're about to shut it out, man.
Yeah.
I really wonder how they're gonna do a Switch then. When is that gonna happen? When is that date? When is that year?
Who knows?
Anyways, okay, cool.
But yeah, these games are really good. In fact, actually, we're going to talk about a game in a little bit that I played on DS Virtual Console on the Wii and Wii U, and that's how I played this game. So
interesting. Okay.
So next up, we got Fire Emblem Path of Radiance on the GameCube. This is the one starring Ike. Right. And this is the only other one on this list that I personally have not played.
Okay, I have not played this one either.
Yeah. Everyone talks about this one. Everyone loves this one. But the disc is too expensive for my blood.
It's $800 or something crazy.
No, you're usually probably looking the $300 to $400 range for it.
Yeah, too much, man.
It's too much. Yeah, you can buy a Switch for that. for the amount of money that you can pay for Path of Radiance. So yeah, I mean, I would love to play it one day, but I'm also just like, I don't know if I want to.
So, it's just more of a question to you. With these GameCube Fire Emblem games, were they hard to get like day one release? Because I don't like, I never really paid attention.
Oh, they had extremely low print runs. That's why it's so expensive now.
Oh, okay.
Like that was the problem. Is just that it's because it was a series at the time that Nintendo was not like all in on where they weren't producing a ton of copies of them, and that's why they went out of print pretty quickly. Which is why, like the next game we're about to talk about, its sequel on the Wii, they actually printed a lot of those, despite the fact that the series was kind of in its doldrums. And this next one, Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn on the Wii, is is definitely a lot more accessible because it's a lot easier to pick this one up, because it's usually goes for about $100 to $150, which is obviously still expensive.
Yeah,
but it's not $300 to $400 expensive.
True, not terrible,
because they made many more copies of this one, and I think this one is really good too. I actually like Radiant Dawn a lot, although I will say I was really lost with the story because it is really a direct sequel to Path of Radiance, which I just never had, and I never actually finished this one either. But I did really have a lot of fun with it. I did like the second last mission, put it down one day, and I just never went back to it.
Oh, don't you hate when that happens?
It's kind of the worst. So
yeah,
Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn, I think it's a really good game. I also think it goes in the B above Secret Stones is probably where I put this one. But, yeah. Next up, we got Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon. This is actually a remake of the original Fire Emblem game.
One. Yeah.
On the DS. And Garrett, I played through this game in its entirety on the Wii U Virtual Console. That's how I played this game.
So with DS Virtual Console, did you have the bottom screen on your Fisher Tech toy and then the top screen on the TV? Is that how it happened?
So that's usually how I played it. But if I wanted to play it in bed, Garrett, what I would do is you split the gamepad in half. One side is one screen, and one side of the gamepad is the other screen.
Yeah, that's what happens with like 3DS and DS emulation as well. So very typical. Okay,
cool. In fact, actually, what was nice about it, Garrett, is that it gave you a bunch of different options. So even if you were playing on your TV but didn't want to have it be like the dual screen experience, you could change that around. They gave you like 4 different layouts for it, which was interesting. But
cool.
Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon, very, very good game. Very good remake of the original Fire Emblem, and definitely makes that game infinitely more playable. 100%. Like if someone wanted to go back to the roots of Fire Emblem and play the original game, like this is the way to play it.
I think I gotta play this version then. I don't remember if I have this. I think I have this somewhere. It wasn't, but it wasn't on 3DS, man.
No, it's just on DS.
I know. Did I have it on DS? I don't remember.
Maybe
too much. Yeah.
The nice thing is this is also one of the more affordable Fire Emblem games where it's going for about $70 to $80 is usually what you'd find this one for. And that's for like a complete copy. You can probably go card only and get it even cheaper than that. So Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon, I think it's a really good game. I think this goes behind Fire Emblem on the GBA in the A tier is where I would fit this one. But I think it's a very good game.
Okay. So the GBA Fire Emblem game is like its standalone GBA Fire Emblem game. Like it's not anything to do with the first game of the series, right?
Yeah, that Fire Emblem on the GBA is the sequel to the Binding Blade, which we didn't get in North America, which is a GBA, also a GBA game.
I see. So it's a different Fire Emblem game, but the DS one is a remake of the original Fire Emblem game. Okay,
100%. I know the naming is kind of confusing because they think they just named it that way. Because again, Fire Emblem is supposed to be named Fire Emblem: The Blazing Blade.
But it wasn't called that in the West because
because it was the first game
one
we got.
Okay,
Nintendo's silly when it comes to this stuff.
And that's with Marth and Roy. Okay.
Well, it's also got Lynn as well, who's one of my favorite characters.
Lynn. Yeah, definitely. Cool.
Yeah. But Garrett, now it's finally time to get you in on this action.
It's time
to talk about Fire Emblem Awakening. because
of course
we've talked about Fire Emblem Awakening a lot on the show. I think we both really like it. I think it's a good game. Really good game.
It's good.
In fact, it really revitalized the series in a lot of ways. We're like, it was really on its back foot. We're like, Nintendo didn't know if Fire Emblem was going to continue past this game. But it kind of blew up. Like, I remember being excited for this game because I played some of those previous games. So I had it pre-ordered at the store and went and picked it up. And then when I brought it home, I was very surprised to, hear from, my roommate's friends, because she used to have a bunch of friends over all the time. And they were talking about Fire Emblem, and I'm just like, y'all have never talked about Fire Emblem before. This is weird to me that all of a sudden, like, all y'all are now all into Fire Emblem, and they'd all, play together and stuff like that. Like, it was a whole thing. Like, I remember lots of people talking about Fire Emblem then as well. So, like, this was the game that got people into Fire Emblem in a big way. So, including you, Garrett.
Yeah, including me. I remember getting this copy of this game. It took me a little bit to finish, but man, once I started playing, I was instantly hooked. Back in, I think it was 2013. I would have to say.
I believe so.
Yeah, 2013 for sure. Somewhere around there. Yeah, this was the first entry for me into the series, and it was actually pretty accessible. I think this Fire Emblem game probably really, I don't know how it was before, but I remember it being notoriously difficult, having just only classic mode. And so Awakening was kind of like the first one. It's like, hey, you can just play casually and just go through the story and be fine. Which is super cool. Yeah. Very good game.
Yeah, you can definitely tell like they targeted North Americans with this one a little bit, where it's less like they wanted to bring more people into this one. They wanted to bring more people into the series, so they made it very approachable. This was also the first one that had all the social stuff, like the dating and the marriage and the kids and all that stuff. Like all that stuff,
all the romancing. Yeah. This one, oh gosh, this was the first time matchmaking timeline. Bring your kids into the future.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it so much. It was such a weird thing because everyone was obsessed about it's a math problem. It's all the combinations and the different min and maxes you can make with these children. It was a thing for sure. But I do have to say the story of this game was very, very good. Very nice, very refreshing. And the ending really blew me away. Like, oh my God, it is one of the few, RPGs when I was playing at the time, like, wow, that's a really good story. I never suspect, this game being that cool or that in depth about it. So,
well, I thought both the endings were really good too, because there were two
both endings. Yeah.
And they were both really satisfying and interesting. So like this easily is still like, I think it still stands the test of time as like one of the best Fire Emblem games.
I need to replay it. I really do, because I don't remember much now. It's been a while since I finished it for the first time. I played a little bit second time, but man, I would love to go back and just go through it. It's so good.
So what do we do here, Garrett? Do you think we put it in S tier? Is it A tier? What do you think? Because I definitely think it's probably A or S, probably.
I'm going to have to vote S on this one. Just looking at the rest of the games, this one is definitely an S tier for me.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I agree with you. There's maybe only one or two other games I might pitch for S at this point.
Yeah, definitely.
I definitely think it's one of the best, if not the best ones. So
right.
Fire Emblem Awakening, fantastic game. On the other side, it's now time to talk about everyone's favorite series of 3 games, Garrett.
Oh my God.
Fire Emblem Fates. And this is going to be an interesting conversation, but I think people, if you've been listening to the show long enough, probably know how I feel about this. So we're gonna rate each one of these individually, because they're basically 3 different.
They're very different.
3 different. Too. So let's start with Birthright, Garrett. Fire Emblem Fates Birthright. Where of course it's the Hoshido side. You're the goody two shoes. You're going around. You're recruiting other nations together to fight the Noor Empire. And I'm just gonna come out and say it, Garrett. It's one of the most boring Fire Emblem games I've ever played in my entire life.
Okay, cool. I haven't played too much of this side of it, to be honest with you. So yeah, that's fine. I'm saying it's boring. I think I remember it being just easy It's like, this is fine.
Well, exactly. Like
easy game.
That's what kind of makes it boring for me, where the battles are super easy and the story is uninteresting. So I'm just like that combination is just like, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I think it's the worst game I've played on this list. 100%.
Wow. Okay. All right.
I think for me, this goes at the bottom of C tier, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Okay. Sounds good. Was it still competent? You could play through the game, so it's at least C tier.
Yeah. But like, I would rather struggle a little bit with I would rather play the NES Fire Emblem games with a guide than ever go back to Birthright.
Wow. That's saying something.
Yeah. Cause like that game put me to sleep. Like it was not good. Again, it's not terrible. Like it's still playable. Like it's still like there are some interesting, characters, and there are some good things about it. It's just when you compare it to the other games on this list, like it's definitely the worst one there.
But, okay.
Yeah. Well, next talk about Conquest, Garrett.
Yeah.
Because this one is one of my favorite Fire Emblem games.
Really?
I love Conquest. I love the dark story.
Wow.
I love the unique approach to the battles, where the battles were like totally different from everything else. Like I loved Conquest. Like this was like my favorite of the three of these.
Interesting. This is the one I played all the way through, all the way to the end. Mm-hmm. I struggled.
Yeah. It's very hard.
The last two battles was like, I am going through the skin of my teeth. And like, it's a casual, not casual, it's classic only, right? That's as far as I know.
You can play on casual with this.
Oh, I played on classic like a dork, like a loser. I should have played casual on this thing because it's so hard. But yeah, no, I agree with you. The battles were pretty unique. I like the story a lot in this game. I like the mystiqueness. I like the struggle. I like the darkness between characters. It's very complex between each of the characters, because it's interesting, because you're fighting. You think you're fighting against good, like you're fighting against the white, pure, enemies and team, and like you're going against family. Like it's very nice like that. But also, what I really like about Fates, just in general, is the base building. Yeah. That was like, why didn't you go back to this? This is so good. All this base building stuff.
But, well, not only that, you could have like multiplayer battles with your friends in the different bases. Like you could have people invade other bases. Like it was really cool. Like me and my friends used to play it a lot. Like we used to play the multiplayer a lot for this game. And it was really fun. I mean, that applies to all three, by the way. The base building and the multiplayer applies to all three of the Fates games. But Captain Awesome also pointed out it has more Camilla than the other one, so obviously it's 10 out of 10.
Camilla is number one waifu in Fire Emblem, no doubt.
Yeah.
We can put Conquest, I would say B tier for me. But you could vote for A. I would be fine with A.
I think it goes in. I think it has to go in the A tier for me.
Okay.
Because like I was originally maybe gonna pitch an S for this one, Garrett. But like,
I'm sorry, I can't do that.
But like we can put it in the middle.
Okay.
Between the two.
We can put it in the middle. We can put A tier. I'm fine with that. Yes.
But I definitely think it's above these other two games that are in A tier,
I'm fine with that. I haven't played these, so.
But yeah, like it just really reminded me of what I liked about the older Fire Emblem games as well, where you couldn't go grind, and the battles were like there were some battles where you had to like avoid all kinds of really interesting traps, and you had to navigate the map in a certain way, but the way it funneled you in, like it made just the battles just so much more like tactical in that way. Like I really liked the battles a lot in Conquest, so I had to throw it in there.
Sounds good.
And then the last one, Revelations. Did you ever get around to playing this one where it
I didn't really too much.
Okay.
No.
Because this one's also very solid too. I like Revelations a lot. It is a lot more like Awakening in a lot of ways with how, the map structure works, because it gives you the uniqueness of some of the fights, like with some of the unique mechanics that you have in Conquest, mixed with like Awakening's map structure, where you can go and you can grind your troops. You have all the base building. You also recruit all the characters across both games,
right?
And it and it ties up the story in a really good way. So I actually think Revelations is also really strong. It's either at the high end of B or low end of A, I think, from me. But
okay, you
definitely
can choose
very
whatever.
good. Yeah, I'll put it at high end of B. I think if we've got Conquest in A, Revelations in B, and Birthright in C, I think that sounds right to me.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, but so that's Fates. I actually am someone who like am a little bit of a Fates apologist because I know a lot of people out there just don't like Fates, but like I think 2 of the 3 ain't bad when it comes to Fire Emblem Fates. I think both, Conquest and Revelations are good games. So I come to its defense a little bit, admittedly. But next up, our first spin-off game, Garrett. Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE on the Wii U, but also on the Switch as well. Yep. This, of course, crossing over Shin Megami Tensei and Fire Emblem, and of course, my favorite element, J-pop. Because of course it does.
It's so much J-pop in this one.
Yeah. Well, you're playing as idols.
That's interesting.
Garrett, you're playing as idols and you're summoning Fire Emblem characters in the form of Shin Megami Tensei demons. I mean,
it's cool.
Yeah.
It's a gimmick. I think a lot of this game is cool on paper, but when I was playing it, I was just like, there's something weird going on here. Something I wouldn't say lacking. I would just say it's a weird mashup of stuff going on. Very Japanese. Very tropey like that. I played like 20 hours of it on Switch. I need to go back and wrap it up. I would say it's a solid one. It's a solid game. I would say low B, high C for me. That's what I would put it.
Yeah, for me. I would probably put this like behind Radiant Dawn and B is probably where I would put this one as well. Because like like on the low end of B, I think. Because like I also think it's really good, and I do think that it's a very unique game, and it definitely sets itself apart from a lot of other games, which is one of the reasons why I actually really like it. It just felt like a breath of fresh air in a lot of ways when I played it, especially too because I'm just a sucker for J-pop and idol stuff and whatnot. So I liked that aspect of the story. But you're right, Garrett. I feel like there's like a lacking element to it where it just doesn't. It's like it feels like a great idea on paper. But you're right. It's like when you get in the midst of playing it, it definitely is like not as.
It's just a little confusing, just like going through the dungeons and going through like it's a solid turn-based game. It's just other than that, it's a solid turn-based game with some very wacky Japanese elements in there. It's a fun time. I wouldn't say it's like a bad experience or anything like that.
No. And I do think the Switch version is really like a great version to play.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely check it out. Well, next up, Garrett, our first ever mobile game on a tier list, Fire Emblem Heroes. We're ranking a mobile game. This is happening. We're making history right now.
We're making history. Yeah.
And this is mostly because of me. I had to put this on here. Because I, for like almost an entire year, was like so addicted to Fire Emblem Heroes, it was ridiculous. Like I played this game nonstop because I liked this game a lot on mobile.
It's a good one. It's a good gacha game. In general, very short, quick rounds. Very, it's surrounded by Fire Emblem heroes and characters. I liked this when I played it. And it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was too cash grabby or anything like that. It was just like, here are your packs and here's your pulls and your ranks for each of the Fire Emblem heroes. Has some cool art. Very, and the art style was they were very into it for sure in the mobile space.
There were some really interesting costumes for some of the characters. Also, I like too that they had like original heroes, but that really felt like they fit in the Fire Emblem universe as well. Like not just the characters that you meet in the story, but also like some of the other characters that they added with other events and stuff like that. Like I like this game a lot. Like I think this is probably upper side of B tier, I think.
Okay.
What do you think?
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. Yeah. No, I wouldn't say this is a bad, like a mediocre or an okay experience. I was addicted to it for the longest time. So,
and it's also like, it's a really good free to play game. Like in a lot of ways, it's a game that respects your time because I never put any money into that. And I had a huge collection of characters. And then it had its own campaign that you go on, and you bring your extra characters into the campaign with it. And then there was like a ton of different modes and stuff you could do in it. And it didn't really, limit how much of that you could really do. I thought this was like a really good mobile game. So one of the best mobile games I've ever played, I think. But yeah, Fire Emblem Heroes, good game. But next up, Fire Emblem Echoes. Shadows of Valentia, of course. This is the remake of Fire Emblem Gaiden from the Famicom. What do you think about this game, Garrett?
I'm gonna be a hard, staunch defender of this game because I really enjoyed this one. If Awakening was not my favorite out of all the series, I think this one's it's a solid number 2 for me. I think it was mainly because it was a breath of fresh air of how rooted it was with the classic game. It's a tale of two people. It's like going through both main protagonists in parallel, and they cross each other and they split back out. It was just a very unique experience on my end. Very solid gameplay. For me, this is a high A, low S for me. This is one I highly praise for. The music's so good, character art style is so good. This one's absolutely one of my favorites. So there you go. Nice. That's with me with Fire Emblem.
Okay.
Echo Shadow of Valencia.
I'm a little bit ashamed to admit it, Garrett. I never finished this game. I played it. I got pretty far, but I never finished this one. But I also really enjoyed it. Like I agree with you. I think it's definitely like one of the best games in the series, probably.
Yeah,
it's up there.
And it was so cool because I think that was the first time where we had like kind of third person free movement in like the castles, the forts, going around. You never seen that really before in a Fire Emblem game. Like that, and I think they just did a very solid job with this one. It was an ode to the 3DS. It was like literally releasing early 2017, right?
It was one of the two 3DS Swan songs, the other being Metroid Samus Returns the same year.
Yeah. And so it was good. Man, it was just so good. I got the complete edition of that one. Very nice artwork overall. So I vote for an S tier, but I can understand A tier as well for this one.
I'm going to agree with you because there's one that I think you're going to vote for S later that I think I'm going to argue against. So I'm cool with putting this one S tier. So
sounds good.
Yeah, I think this game is really good. In fact, I actually think like the 3D exploration in this is way better than Three Houses. I'm sorry. I just don't love the stuff in Three Houses, but we'll get to that in a second when we talk about Three Houses. But next up, Garrett, another spinoff, Fire Emblem Warriors from Koei Tecmo. Of course, this is a Musou game, kind of like one of them Warriors games. This one was basically just cut and paste the Warriors format, but add the Fire Emblem characters. Did you play this one? I know we talked. Like I think you played the sequel, but I don't remember if you played this one. The first one.
I haven't played too much of this one. I do have it. Have it on Switch. But yeah, I haven't played so much of it. I'm not really into the Musou games that much. So we can put this anywhere you want.
I think this
it's not my style.
I think this one's top of C tier because you can definitely tell like this one, I don't know, it just felt unfinished to me. Like they rushed this one.
That's why I hear.
Like, and yeah, you can tell with the review scores at the time. Like it was a game that like you can definitely tell they wanted it out for the same year as the Switch's launch to have like a Fire Emblem game of some kind there. But this one I just don't think it was really well done.
This was also on the 3DS.
It was also on the 3DS. It was
only on the new 3DS, right?
That's what I was just about to say. It was a new Nintendo 3DS exclusive because it couldn't run the game. It was one of only two games.
So weird.
The only other one being Xenoblade Chronicles.
Xenoblade Chronicles, that's another one, and then the SNES games.
Yeah, the SNES games. You couldn't play Super Metroid on your 3DS unless you had a new Nintendo
Donkey
3DS.
Kong Country.
Yep. Look.
Oh my goodness.
It needed the extra power, okay, Garrett? It needed the extra power.
Of course.
Good God.
Oh, but so weird.
Fire Emblem Warriors, it's a fine game, but it's very forgettable, and it's like it's just fine. But moving on to a game that's not just fine. pretty good. Fire Emblem 3 Houses, Garrett. Pretty good video game.
Pretty good.
But I'm going to go ahead and just say something controversial, Garrett, or something I've said on the show before.
Oh no.
I don't like this game nearly as much as other people do. Where I think I love the combat in this game. Like I like the battles in this game.
Yes.
And I do like the main story, but it really just gets bogged down by all the other stuff you have to do in this game. And it felt like a slog going through this game.
You know, I'm not particularly against that opinion. I'm kind of with you. I love the combat. I love, as you said, the story from beginning to end. Really nice. It was really cool to see 3 different routes. But man, it tried to be Persona when just don't try to be Persona.
The tea time, Garrett. The tea time. We need to go get tea with Claude.
It's so rough, man. It really does. I agree with you. It bogs down. It like the pace slows down just randomly and all the time. Running around that university or castle or whatever.
Yeah. It just took forever to just run around and do everything you needed to do. And then you had to go do lesson planning. And it's just like, there were so many systems you had to manage on top of that too. Like you had to manage your troops, and then you had to manage like what training regimen all your character was going to do. And then you had to manage all your equipment for like 30 guys in your party. And then it's just like, it's so many systems upon systems. It's too much, I think.
Yeah. I like my story, the route I went to with Edelgard. But
whereas you're talking to someone who played this game 4 times, Garrett. I did all 4.
You played it 4 times? You really did? Wow.
Yeah, and the DLC.
Okay. And the DLC. Wow. And you still think it got bogged down.
That's why I feel like I have that opinion even more, because I played through it 4 times, Garrett. Because
now, my question to you is, when you replay it like the second and third time, was it like kind of a new game plus situation with you, or was it like a restart?
There's a lot of I would always play on New Game Plus and carry all my stuff over just to get through the game faster.
Yeah. Does it go through a bit faster, like the second or third time?
I found like I could get through the combat a lot quicker, although I would bump up the difficulty each time to kind of match the power level of my characters. So I definitely found that there was still a challenge there, but also I just, wasn't bogged down too much by the battles, especially since I'd done most of them over again, right? Because you're still replaying all the same battles despite the fact that the story is different and you've got different troops. So
right. Sounds good.
Yeah. Oh, there's only like a couple key battles that are different, but the real question is, Garrett, where do we rank this one? Because I'm like, I know a lot of people are like clamoring from home to throw this in S tier, and I'm like, I can't justify putting it.
No, I think this is an A tier game.
Yeah,
it is not an S tier to me, and not in my heart. No.
Yeah.
You could put it. You could put it below Conquest if you want.
I think it definitely is not above Conquest for me.
Okay, cool. That sounds good. I don't know about the other two. I have no opinion. So
I think this, because the story is so good and the combat's good.
Yeah,
that
the story's great.
I think it does put it ahead of the other 2 games, the Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon and just plain Fire Emblem. So I think that's a good spot for it. And then, we'll get less angry comments that way, Garrett, because at least it's in A tier and at the top of A tier, and not, in C tier like it could have been. You never know.
It could have been.
But next up, Garrett, we're continuing with the 3 houses in Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. And this game was way better than the first Warriors game. Like it was substantially better. Like this game is actually pretty good.
No, I really enjoyed what I played of it. I didn't finish it all the way through yet. I want to go back and get through it. But man, of what I played with it, I think it grabs a lot of the what's the Zelda one called?
Oh, Hyrule Warriors?
There's Hyrule Warriors, and then what's the second one that was like a sequel to Breath of the Wild or whatever? I forgot what it's called. But anyways, I played all the way through that, and it reminds me of that, where they were really trying to take all the roots and the elements of a certain game, in this case Fire Emblem 3 Houses, and just make it your own, make it a sequel, make it a spinoff. They did a very good job with this one. Seriously, I want to go back and get into it. So,
Yeah.
I don't know where to rank it, to be honest with you, because I haven't played way too much of it. I maybe a B tier, but it's up to you.
I was actually thinking the same as you. Like, I think this is like the middle of the pack in B. Like, probably. Actually, you know what? No, I'm gonna be bold. I think it's probably actually better than Fire Emblem Heroes. So I think it's probably like second in the top of B tier is probably where I put this one. I think, but it's definitely. I think we both agree it's definitely B tier for sure. Like, I think definitely not C tier. Definitely way better than the first one. And I definitely think it's better than a lot of those games in the B tier. I think so.
Cool.
Yeah. All right, Garrett. Our last game.
Yeah,
Fire Emblem Engage. In fact, it's funny that we're talking about this tonight because we're basically almost entirely a year from our review discussion on Fire Emblem Engage at this point. So like we've had some time now from our review discussion to process this a little bit. So how do we feel about Fire Emblem Engage now? Many years later. Or I shouldn't say many years later, a year later.
Many years later.
It feels like many years later, but it really was just last year.
Yeah, this was it was a great game. I like the combat of this a lot compared to other ones. The story was just fine. It was just very fan servicey. This game was an ode to like the fans of Fire Emblem more than anything. It was not really for newcomers. I mean, it's still like pretty good for newcomers in a sense because you get to know all of the history of the Fire Emblem characters and everything. But if I would have like showcased the Fire Emblem series, this would be a hard recommend only because this is not the best story.
Nope.
It's not the best. Like, and the base was very rough. It kind of reminded me a lot of Three Houses like that, where you had to kind of just have to go everywhere in a base. So yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. I would really put it in a rank for me or a high B. But up to you on this one.
I actually like this game in retrospect. It is very much trying to be the anniversary game of Fire Emblem. So it is trying to be like a big celebration of the series, which as someone like me, who's basically been playing the games for a very long time, like this was super cool for me. Like I was actually like geeking out getting to see some of these older characters in 3D because a lot of these characters weren't even in 3D games. Like, for example, Lynn or Roy, like other than Roy being in Smash Brothers, like you don't really interact with that character in 3D so it was really cool to see a lot of these old characters that I knew from older Fire Emblem games, come up to the main stage with this one and kind of get to see them in like a new game. And it just makes me hope that, maybe we go back to some of those characters with whatever is next with Fire Emblem down the road. Like I would love to see something like that, or even, Genealogy of the Holy War will give us a good opportunity for getting to see a lot of those old characters again as well. But I think this game is very solid as well, Garrett. You're right. Definitely not a game that I would recommend to new people in the series, because even though like it has its own standalone story, you're just going to get less out of it if you haven't played at least some of these games. So yeah. And I do think the combat is fine. It is a little bit on the easier side.
It is pretty easy. Yeah.
Which I do think like, if it wasn't for all that other stuff, I actually would think that it might actually be the best recommendation for new players. If it wasn't for that stuff. But I do think I agree with you. Like this is probably at the bottom of A tier, I think, is where I think slot this one.
Yeah, definitely.
Because like either you're right, like either the high B or low A, and I think it definitely like I feel like that fits in there. So
yeah, if someone has a Switch and they're like, okay, which Fire Emblem game do I play? I would still say Three Houses, just because I think it has the better story. It has really good combat. I think people would just like drive that to that more than just Engage, at least for now in my head.
Yeah.
So
I think so too. Like again, Engage is not the game that I would ever probably recommend to a new player, despite the fact that it has a lot of things in it for new players. It's not the game that I would recommend for new players.
Yeah.
So, well, there you go. That's our tier list. Let me run through the tier list for audio listeners who can't actually see the chart here, just to do a quick recap. So, of course, our S tiers: Fire Emblem Awakening and Fire Emblem Echoes. Our A tier: Fire Emblem Fates Conquest, Fire Emblem Three Houses, Fire Emblem on the GBA, Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon on the DS, and Fire Emblem Engage. Our B tiers: Fire Emblem Fates Revelations, Fire Emblem Warriors Three Hopes, Fire Emblem Heroes, Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn, Tokyo Mirage Sections, #FE or sharp FE, whatever you want to say there, Fire Emblem The Sacred Stones, and then our C tiers: Fire Emblem Warriors, Fire Emblem Gaiden, Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon on the NES, and finally, rounding things out, Fire Emblem Fates Birthright, because it has to be there. It has to be. It's the worst one. So there you go. That's our chart, our tier list, Garrett. But that is not all the Fire Emblem goodness for tonight's show, Garrett, because we also got questions.
We got questions.
And most of these questions are actually Fire Emblem related. So we're going to start with Nagachaka, who asks, as someone who did not enjoy the social game mechanics in Fire Emblem Three Houses, are there any other Fire Emblem games you would recommend I give a try to? So, Nagachaka, one of these, I think you in particular might actually appreciate if you've got the NSO trying out Fire Emblem on the GBA, because it gives you like really good turn-based, tactical battles. It is only in classic mode, so it can be, a little bit difficult, but of course, you've got the rewind feature, so you can kind of get around that if you really, really want to. And of course, you can kind of save anywhere. But most importantly, it doesn't have any of the social stuff, and it's still a great game on top of all that. So if you've got a Switch and you don't want any of the social stuff, then I think that's actually the game I would recommend to you. Otherwise, you might want to go back and pull out your 3DS and play, some of those older games, Fire Emblem Awakening or Echoes. Echoes is actually really good with it because it doesn't have a lot of relationshipy stuff either.
Yeah, Echoes doesn't really, bring over all the relationship stuff, which I like. It's just its story, and it has some like, let's kind of group together and like fight against an enemy, but that's it. It's not like, we have to do a social interaction or a romance or anything. Not like
Nagachaka is describing, where you're going on tea parties and you're getting people gifts and stuff. And
my goodness.
Stuff.
Yeah. So there's that. And also, Fire Emblem Engage doesn't really have those social stuff too. If you want to just like, I think what I like about, also with the Engage is the spirits or whatever of the like the heroes, and like seeing what their abilities are, and like going through kind of and it's an easier game, as Ryan said. It is not a hard Fire Emblem game at all. So maybe that's a good one to try out.
I think Engage, actually, you're right, it's probably actually the easiest Fire Emblem game, other than maybe Birthright, which I think is the only game that might actually be easier than Engage. Next up, we got Fulia, who says, hey there, friends. I've been recommended by my manager at work to check out Fire Emblem Three Houses because it has similar tactics, if I'm remembering our conversation correctly, as Unicorn Overlord. Do you think Three Houses is a good place to start for someone like me who is still learning about role-playing games? So this is a tricky question, Garrett, because on one hand, yes, I think her manager is technically correct. But I also think, a lot of the systems really are actually tougher for a new player to role-playing games in particular. And that's also a very different type of strategy than Unicorn Overlord, because it is turn-based, unlike Unicorn Overlord, where, Unicorn Overlord plays more like a real-time strategy game in a lot of ways than
it reminds me a lot of Diefield Chronicles, to be honest with you, than anything else.
So and maybe that's actually maybe Diefield is like,
you should try that one out. It's very similar to, at least the real-time strategy part is similar to Unicorn Overlord, where you kind of like let the characters go, and in real time they just do their thing. They just like kind of attack and You can move them however you want, and it's actually, I think the outfield was pretty easy. If I recall correctly,
it ramps up.
It gets harder. Okay,
it does get harder,
okay.
but it has like adjustable difficulties. So if it gets too hard, you can just bump down the difficulty, and it's still fine.
Three Houses is just hard to recommend for Fulia because it's long. It's not a short game at all, and it's really I think a lot of the reason why it's a long game, it's because there's just a lot of schedule persona elements. Like, here's a gift, here's a conversation, here's a tea party, and it's like, okay, if you want to get into that stuff, that's great, like trying to figure that out. But man, I just thought it was like kind of just a stepping point, just like a doorstop between each battle. But that's just me.
Like it does have a lot of systems, which is why like it can be a little overwhelming for someone who's new to role-playing games. But it's also a great game. And I know a lot of people who, kind of got into strategy role-playing games because of Three Houses.
That's true. Yeah.
Fulia asked, of course, what was the name of the game we mentioned again? That was the Diofield Chronicle, made by Square Enix. It's on every platform: Switch, PlayStation, PC, Xbox, and it's got a pretty good demo as well that carries over to the full game.
Yeah.
So if you want to give it a try. Yeah, so kind of like Unicorn Overlord does. So if you want to give it a try the demo for the Diofield Chronicle. I think it's a really good game as well. Because I think that's much closer to Unicorn Overlord than Fire Emblem is in a lot of ways.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we got HVAC Sparky, who says, "Hey guys, I hope you're having a fantastic Monday or Chunday or Chonday, depending on what you want to go with there. Question for the show: piggybacking off this theme, which Fire Emblem game would you recommend first to someone who is completely new to the series, asking for a friend?" So, and this is a problem now, Garrett, because not everyone has the 3DS out, because like I feel like the best way to get into Fire Emblem is still the 3DS games and not the Switch games.
It is, man.
100%.
The 3DS games are so good.
Yeah.
Man, I would say Awakening, no doubt. If it was their like first Fire Emblem game, that's the one to go to. That's the one I recommend. On Switch, I mean, I think from our previous answer, I think Three Houses is good too. Like a lot of people enjoy that one. So
you just have to understand going into Three Houses that it is, very weighted in mechanics. And as long as you know that and know it's a long game going into it, then I think you'll have a good time with it anyways. But and also you'll understand too that, that game is very different from the other Fire Emblem games because of how much of that stuff is added on top of it. So if you like some of that stuff somehow, then, and you might be disappointed when you go to some of the other Fire Emblem games and see that some of that stuff isn't there, as an example.
Right.
Yeah. But it's too bad because I would say like HVAC Sparky, if you have a 3DS, I would start with Fire Emblem Awakening and just make that your first one. 100%. That's what I would.
Then play the Fates games. And save Birthright for last apparently, and then do Shadow of Valencia, which is really, really good as well. Man.
God, you want to just go play 3DS games right now, Garrett?
Let's just. I got my. Oh, hold on. There we go. My 2DS right here. There we go.
Hold on.
Show and tell. All right.
I've got it. Where is it?
Oh, where it is?
Well, I got my copy of A Link Between Worlds, which I've been.
Oh, he had to grab one of them. What do I even?
This bit's gone on long enough. I have my backpack from work.
Oh yeah, okay. You got your 30.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, dude, we're twinsies. Look at that.
We're twinsies. Right. Look at us.
I love this model of the 3DS. It's the new 2DS XL, blue and black. I got my. I think I have Persona Q2 in here.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely have Persona Q2 locked and loaded. Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, we're ready. We're ready to go street passing, Garrett, because
dude, I wish street pass was a thing again. It was so good.
Garrett, I don't know if you knew this, but I was carrying my 3DS on Friday in my backpack, left it on. I got a street pass.
Wow.
I got a street pass while riding the subway.
The thing is, I hate to keep my battery on with this thing because it does like really drain the battery for me. I wonder if I need to replace it.
Maybe.
But
Yeah.
anyways.
I just got a new charger for mine because they still sell them on the Nintendo website, which is nice. So, because my old
They do,
charger
yeah.
broke.
They sell it for like pretty cheap too. It's a pretty affordable price to grab them. So I might do that
Yeah. Oh,
eventually.
Captain Awesome has a good question. I want to address this one. Am I
Go for it.
alone in feeling a little intimidated by Unicorn Overlord's tactics? Are you guys going to share tips when you get it? Yeah, I think we can do something like that. Yeah, I can understand it being a little overwhelming because there are a lot of layers to it, especially because Garrett, I know that when we had talked about it, you hadn't got very far in the demo, so you hadn't got to see the layers upon layers upon layers of stuff that is a little bit there. Like there is a lot of mechanics in that game. And the strategy can be quite deep for Unicorn Overlord. So I can definitely understand that intimidation factor a little bit, Captain Awesome. So I definitely understand that. I'll pick up the game on Friday. And I'll definitely be talking about it on
Dude, it comes out on
PlayStation.
Friday.
Yep.
Jeez.
Yep. That and Plumbers Don't Wear Ties is out this week, Garrett. So it's gonna be a good week for video games.
Of course.
Yeah.
Locklist is correct. Play Fantasy Life on 3DS. It's so good. Can't wait for Fantasy Life I coming out on Switch later this year.
There are so many good 3DS games. Like what are we even doing here? Like at some point, let's just talk about 3DS.
Dude, honestly, like if I didn't throw out all the other systems, if I just had my 3DS and it was pretty good, like I think like in an upgraded 3DS. I mean, like, just like maybe a bigger screen, a little slimmer, longer battery, all the good trimmings and everything. I would still play a lot of these games and feel entertained for a long time.
A lot of them are really good. But even like some of the virtual console stuff is also pretty good too. Because I beat a game this week, Garrett, because I beat Mega Man.
You beat a game.
I beat Mega Man 3 on Game Boy.
Nice.
On my 3DS because it was on the one of the games on the virtual console.
Is it all right on with the D-pad? Is it good?
Oh yeah, it's great. I mean, especially with the 2DS XL, like the D-pad on this is actually really good. So cool. Yeah, I beat that game. I'm playing through Mega Man 4 now on Game Boy. So hopefully I'll actually probably finish that this week. But it's been super cool to play
regular Game Boy. So it's no color to it, right? It's just
it's just black and white.
Okay,
but
cool.
Yeah, what I like about those games, and we're on a serious side tangent here, but what's cool about those games is they mix mechanics from different Mega Man games together in a really interesting way. Like they have, like Mega Man 4 is like enemies from Mega Man 4 and 5, but then they also bring mechanics from both games in it, and then you fight this unique Wily's Castle. Like it's really cool. So cool. As a big Mega Man fan, I'm loving going back to those. But that's enough about Mega Man. That's not a role-playing game. Because we gotta move on to our final question of the night. That comes to us from Savoy Prime, who says, now the reviews for the Thaumaturge are out. And it's currently sitting at a 77 on OpenCritic and a 79% critical recommendation. Where do you guys' interest gauge for this game? For me, I'm all in and I can't wait to start playing it. Honestly, I didn't really have a hype gauge for this game, Garrett. I didn't really know this game existed until a week ago.
Okay, yeah, I kind of like read over it and like watched a video or two, like probably beginning of the year or late last year, and it looks cool. It's not something I would gonna pick up day one. There's just so many games out there. So it's these days, and I am sure you know this too. It's just very hard to like get someone's attention day one, and Thaumaturge is gonna be, I feel like it's gonna be one of those ones like, okay, it's gonna get a good number of people, but honestly, it's gonna suck if it's like a really great game and it's gonna be overlooked and there's not gonna be a lot of sales with it. Because I would like to have more of those types of games where it's like indie and very strategy focused. But anyways, I'm happy that you're excited for Thaumaturge. It's just something that I'm not gonna get day one, and but I'll keep an eye around for sure.
Yeah, this game for me is kind of filed into the same camp as Banisher's Ghost of New Eden, where it's an interesting looking game, but like I have too many games to play right now, I mean, I
want to play Vampire before Banishers.
Yeah.
Like, to be honest with you.
I mean, I purposely didn't pick up Final Fantasy VII Rebirth this week, despite the fact that I was excited about it.
That's crazy.
But there's just too many other games to play right now. Like, I'll play it later.
I know. Yeah.
Like, I can't buy as many. Like, I'm on a quest, Garrett, to not buy as many games this year as last year. So like, I have to be careful about when I pick it up. So I'm just going to pick it up whenever I'm ready to play it. And that's just not right now, because I'm finishing Persona, for next week. And then I want to move on to Unicorn Overlord, and I'm going to make room for Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, and somehow Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League is going to fit in there too. So, you
still want to play that. Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't I? Look, someone on this team has to play Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, and that's me. That's your boy.
Okay. Go for it.
Anyways, Garrett, to round out the show, we got to thank our patrons over at patreon.com/carpoolgaming, starting with our ultimate producers, Tony Baster from the Quest 4 Pixels podcast. You can check them out over at youtube.com/quest4pixels today. That's the number 4, Garrett, not 4 spelled out. We also got Jonathan Brown, the man behind the music on the Xbox Drive and the PlayStation Drive. You can check out all his music on his link tree at linktr.ee/pme.jib. Or you can click on the link in the description of this video or this podcast. Lee Navarro, the fearless leader of the Phoenix Overdrive Extra Life team. You can check them out over at phoenixoverdrive.com, or maybe, sign up for Phoenix Overdrive's Extra Life team. It's up right now. And hopefully we'll see y'all in November for Extra Life. And then Cwagmire, who humbly reminds you that the best babes are in fact Xenobabes, as well as our gold members Adam K, Anna, Awesome Dave 1337, BobLoblaw, Brad Moore, Brian Reese, Cecily Carrozza, CrocoKyle, Dana and Luma, Dannohh, Emily O'Kelly, Yon32, Marcus O'Neill, Peje EP, and Tim Aulph. Huge thank you once again to all of our patrons over at patreon.com/carpoolgaming. If you want to hop in the car with us, head on over there and choose the tier that's right for you. Now, Garrett, plugs go.
You can follow me at Twitter at Blind Explosion. And I am not anywhere else. I am in the darkness, and the darkness is me. But I am somewhat active on the RPG Cave channel in the Discord. That channel's been riled up, man. Oh my gosh. Okay, before we here we go. I got to say something. I remember. I can't believe I forgot about this in my one of the 3 things, but I got to say it right now. For the people who say they cannot tell the difference between 30 and 60 frames per second, you are lying to yourselves. You are legit lying to yourselves. Stop saying that, because that's objectively not true. Put them side by side. You will tell the difference 100% every time. So that's all I have to say about that. Go, Ryan.
I mean, it just depends on the game, Garrett. Sometimes you can't.
No, I can't. I
couldn't even see that with a straight face. I couldn't.
Oh man. Oh gosh. I can't believe I saw that. I can't believe I saw it from Roy out of all people who played PS5 games. But
I mean, anyways, Lockleaf doesn't even know Roman numerals, so there you go.
The Roman numerals, yeah, me neither.
Oh man, we've been learning Roman numerals through the power of Persona 3 Reload, Garrett. If you look at the social link menu, it's got all the numbers in Roman numerals.
That's true.
Yeah. As for me, you can find me on the old Twitter, aka X, at Ryan Turford. You also find us on X at Carpool Gaming, right here, youtube.com/Carpool Gaming. Of course, podcast services around the globe. So for Garrett Bland, I'm Ryan Turford. This has been level 127 of the RPG Cave, and we're out.
Bye-bye.